Earth just dropped its final update. In 24 hours, you will transform into the last animal you ate. The crazy billionaires drinking fossil soup are already mutating into Trexes. My gym bro roommate ate a raw steak and is turning into a massive bull. And me, am sitting here staring at an empty box of KFC. I'm about to become the weakest bird in the apocalypse. Wait, I didn't eat normal chicken. I ate DINO nuggets. Am I turning into a chicken or an apex predator? To ensure my survival, I didn't gamble on the odds. Instead, I grabbed my survival backpack to try my luck in the wilderness. The streets were in complete chaos, with heavily armed crowds surging out of the city like in a zombie apocalypse movie. I had just gotten on my mountain bike when my shoulder was suddenly slapped hard. I looked back and saw my best friend and classmate, Kevin Wright. "What are you doing here?" I frowned. He lived in the wealthy downtown area, so why did he come to my place near the suburbs? You heard the voice of the Earth's will, right? Kevin's eyes were shining, his whole body trembling with excitement. I heard it. I'm just about to head out of town to find a fierce beast and change my fate. I patted my bulging backpack, not intending to hide it from him. "Are you interested in coming with me?" Kevin leaned in mysteriously and lowered his voice. The Earth's will said, "Well, turn into the last animal we ate," but it didn't say it had to be a modern, living animal. My eyes sharpened. I had this thought too, but where would an ordinary, poor student like me get the DNA of an extinct animal? Did he have a connection? I stared at him. "Stop keeping me in suspense, just say it." Kevin put his arm around my shoulder, his voice extremely low. "My family is in the construction engineering business, you know that. A few days ago, we took a big order to dig a foundation in a remote forest area deep in the mountains. And guess what happened on the first day of work? We dug up dinosaur fossils." My heart jolted. Dinosaur fossils. Although they're still comparing it, there's a high probability that it's a Trex fossil. Kevin beamed with joy. A Trex, one of the most formidable land predators in Earth's history, with an average weight of 9 tons, capable of stomping a modern elephant into mush with 1 foot. If we could really get its bones and boil them into soup, once animalized, we'd have absolutely no rivals on land. But I wasn't blinded by ecstasy. I stared at him. "Such a core secret, and you just told me? What's your angle?" Kevin coughed dryly, puffing out his chest. "I, Kevin Wright, sincerely invite Comrade Arthur to join my Trex brotherhood. When the time comes, we'll all be Trexes, invincible across the world." I sighed helplessly. This guy was too naive. "Kev, as a brother, let me give you a piece of advice. Once order collapses, no one will willingly be a lackey. If everyone is a Trex, why should they listen to you? Unless you can crush them with absolute power. If you're willing to take me to get a piece of the pie, I'll owe you a favor, but I will absolutely not submit to anyone. If you're afraid I'll steal your thunder, I'll leave right now." Kevin's expression shifted, his fists clenched tightly, as if he was going through an intense internal struggle. "Wait," he called out to me, gritting his teeth into a smile. "Let's go. Let's go down this bowl of Trex bone soup together. Worst comes to worst, after we animalize, I'll personally beat you into submission. Whoever wins gets to be the boss. We'll see who comes out on top." I grinned. We hit it off instantly, immediately jumped into his pickup truck, and slammed the gas pedal straight toward the excavation site deep in the mountains. On the way, I learned that his parents were away on business in another state and couldn't make it back, and the older generation was half skeptical about this doomsday talk, so he only came to me. The pickup sped all the way until the mountain road became too rugged for vehicles. We abandoned the car and went on foot. Kevin thought it was too heavy and wanted me to throw away the backpack, but I refused. The bag contained water and dry rations. Until the very last moment, I would absolutely not throw away any survival chips. Trudging over mountains and through ravines, until dusk, we finally saw that remote forestry town nestled deep in the mountains. Only 4 hours remained until global animalization. The town was dead silent, so quiet it made one's hair stand on end. The doors and windows of the houses were shut tight, without a single soul in sight. "Be careful, something's not right." My gaze was like lightning, rapidly scanning the surroundings, my hand already quietly reaching for the hunting knife in my backpack. Kevin pulled out his phone and dialed the contractor at the site, Big Tony. After a long, busy tone, the call connected. "Uncle Tony, where do we find the fossils?" Kevin asked excitedly. "Come to the lumberyard compound in town. Everyone is here." A hoarse, gloomy voice came from the other end of the line. We sneaked to the compound gate, where 2 workers with dodging eyes and trembling hands stood guard, letting us into the yard. The compound was brightly lit. A middle-aged man covered in flab, smoking a cigar, came up with a loud laugh and hugged Kevin. This was Big Tony Anthony Thorne. "Uncle Tony, where's the Trex fossil?" Kevin couldn't wait. The smile on Big Tony's face instantly turned cold and sinister. "Forget the fossil. Uncle has prepared something else good for you. Bring it up." A worker came forward carrying a large plastic water tank. Inside was, astoundingly, a palm-sized North American snapping turtle. "This is your good stuff. Eat it." Big Tony pointed at the snapping turtle, his tone unquestionable. Kevin's face turned livid, and he roared, "Anthony, what is the meaning of this? Aren't you afraid my parents will kill you?" "Your parents?" Big Tony suddenly grabbed Kevin's collar, his face vicious. "Your parents rely on their broad political and business connections to threaten me into a 20/80 split on the money from selling the fossils. Why should the stuff I dug up have the lion's share taken by you? Today, not only am I going to swallow this dinosaur fossil all for myself, but I'm also going to properly vent my anger. Hold him down. Feed him the turtle. Feed his friend too." The surrounding workers pounced like wolves and tigers. Kevin's eyes were filled with despair. "I'm sorry, Arthur. I dragged you into this." I sighed, flipped my wrist, and the cold hunting knife instantly slid into my palm. The blade reflected a bone-piercing cold light under the dim illumination. "I advise you not to move." I stood in front of Kevin, staring murderously at the group of workers. Ordinary workers had never seen the stance of such an outlaw, and they backed away in fear, got some guts, and brought a knife. Big Tony sneered and gave a look over his shoulder. A tower-like muscular man walked out carrying a baseball bat. That was Big Tony's personal enforcer, Brutus, a bona fide underground black market boxer. I gripped the hunting knife tightly, knowing full well that 2 fists are no match for 4 hands. My attack range was too short. Facing a long-handled weapon and absolute power suppression, resistance was merely futile. Within 2 exchanges, the baseball bat came crashing down, and Kevin and I were pinned firmly to the ground, then dragged straight into a dark, abandoned warehouse. The windows were sealed tight, and the walls were solid concrete. The door was slammed shut. That snapping turtle was thrown at our feet. "Arthur, I'm sorry. I really didn't know this would happen." Kevin slumped on the floor, his heart like dead ashes. "What was the last thing you ate?" "Southern-style fried chicken." I leaned against the cold concrete wall, laughing at myself self-deprecatingly. "The last thing I ate was this alligator snapping turtle." Kevin scratched his head, his face full of bitterness. "I originally thought it looked like a monster from a tokusatsu show, pretty cool, so I roasted and ate it. But as soon as I heard there was a Trex, I ran to find you. I didn't expect that after all the twists and turns, it's still a turtle. Well, at least a snapping turtle has amazing bite force and defense. From now on, he'll have to rely on you to protect this chicken of mine." I patted his shoulder. Only the last 3 hours remained. I was unwilling to accept this. Getting a second chance at life, was I really going to turn into a meat chicken waiting to be slaughtered? I rummaged through my backpack, trying to find any turning point. Potato chips, biscuits, pork sausage, beef jerky. Turn into a pig? Turn into a cow? Even though they are stronger than a chicken, in front of a Trex, it's still a one-bite fate. Just as I was searching, the test tube used for blood drawing at the clinic rolled out. Inside was my own blood. A sudden clap of thunder flashed through my mind. Humans are animals too. If I drank my own blood, could I exploit a bug in the system and continue to maintain my human form? In the apocalypse, human intelligence and hands are definitely stronger than a pig's. All or nothing, turning a bicycle into a sports car. With my back to Kevin, I pulled the stopper off the test tube, tilted my head back, and without hesitation, poured that tube of copper-smelling fresh blood into my mouth. The metallic taste of blood instantly filled my mouth, and a wave of nausea rushed straight to my head, but I tightly covered my mouth and forcefully swallowed it down. I leaned against the wall, closed my eyes, and quietly waited for judgment to descend. 3 hours passed in a flash. In the courtyard outside the door, Big Tony and Brutus were greedily swallowing the boiled Trex bone soup. "Humans, you have all found your animals, haven't you?" The ethereal, emotionless voice of the Earth's will exploded once again in everyone's mind. "Global animalization officially begins. Everyone will transform into the juvenile form of an animal and begin natural evolution. Carnivores gain evolution points through hunting. Herbivores gain evolution points through survival. The miracle of nature is happening." The moment the command was issued, the whole world turned upside down. In the cities, some people grew fur and turned into kittens and puppies, while others turned into hamsters. Screams and beastly roars instantly swallowed the ruins of civilization. And in our warehouse, I felt my own body undergoing a frantic reorganization. "Arthur, I've turned into a little snapping turtle." Kevin's voice came through. I couldn't answer him, because I realized that I hadn't managed to maintain my human form as I had hoped. "What the fuck? What the hell is this thing?" Kevin's mung bean-sized turtle eyes almost popped out of their sockets. What lay before him was not a little calf at all, nor was it a little rooster. Rather, it was a giant egg, fully the size of a human head, with colorful lights flowing over its surface, covered in mysterious scale patterns. "Kev, it's me." A rich, deep, majestic voice, seemingly from the primordial ancient era, emanated from inside the eggshell. This was my current state. I didn't have eyes, but I could see everything around me in a 360-degree dead-angle free view through an ability similar to a mental radar. But I drank human blood. Damn it, so why did I turn into an egg? Just as I was wanting to cry but having no tears, a crisp mechanical voice suddenly rang out in my mind. "Ding dong. Congratulations to the host for transforming into a dragon body, officially unlocking the ancient giant dragon system." A giant dragon? I suddenly realized the Western fantasy legends were actually true. Hidden deep within human DNA was the supreme bloodline of the ancient giant dragons. Drinking my own blood had actually awakened this power. Ecstatic, I questioned in my mind, "System, what is your use?" "This system is dedicated to supporting the host's evolution into an ancient dragon god. Currently in the dragon egg phase. Host, Arthur Drake bloodline, ancient giant dragon god tier. Incubation period, 10,000 years. Talent 1. Heaven's punishment, divine thunder. Summons sacred lightning, causing massive area effect destructive damage, consumes 10 mana points. Talent 2, Dragon Might. Comes with the supreme oppressive aura of the dragon race, suppressing all lower tier beings passive, no consumption. Attack, 0, defense, 100. Speed, 0. Hint. Every 10 evolution points can be exchanged for 1 mana point. Every 100 mana points can accelerate incubation by 10 years. When I saw 10,000 years incubation period and attack 0, I almost cursed it out loud. Everyone else was out there frantically hunting to evolve, and I had to squat in an egg for 10,000 years? By then, all of humanity would probably be dead cold. The system seemed to sense my speechlessness and immediately added, as the noblest giant dragon, your current dragon egg posture has a fatal attraction to all animals. Eating you will awaken the dragon bloodline. Now presenting the novice gift pack, 100 mana points. I gasped. Fatal attraction? I couldn't move right now, my attack power was 0. I was simply walking top-tier Wagyu beef. To avoid unnecessary trouble, I quickly turned off all the colorful special effects on the eggshell and disguised myself as a plain, ordinary giant egg. I lied to Kevin, saying that the last thing I ate was ostrich, so I turned into an ostrich egg after all. There are ostrich farms in the US too. Even though Kevin felt that this egg of mine smelled sweet and delicious, he restrained his human instincts. Right at this moment, a terrifying, earth-shaking roar suddenly came from outside the door. Heavy footsteps stomped, making the very ground tremble. We're doomed. It must be that bastard Anthony. Kevin was so scared he directly retracted his head into his turtle shell. Calm down. I comforted him while mobilizing my mental radar to stare fixedly outside the door. If he dared to make a move, I wouldn't mind using them to test the power of heaven's punishment, divine thunder. Bang! The warehouse door was violently smashed open. A massive, hideous Tyrannosaurus Rex head poked in. It was the bodyguard, Brutus. He had actually turned into an ancient Trex cub, as tall as an adult. Boss Tony told you to roll over there. Brutus forcibly suppressed the urge to devour the dragon egg and viciously relayed the command. We were the fish on the chopping block. Kevin, this wash-basin-sized snapping turtle, could only carefully balance my ostrich egg on his turtle shell, carrying me behind Brutus as we walked toward the lumberyard compound. As soon as we entered the compound, I used my mental power to see the whole picture. The Trex that Big Tony had turned into was a size larger than Brutus, its body knotted with muscles and reeking of blood. As for those workers, they had all turned into shivering stray dogs. A pool of wet blood still remained on the ground. Big Tony had just swallowed a stray dog alive, purely to test his bite force and evolution point yield. Oh my, isn't this Kevin? How did you turn into a turtle? Ha 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 ha. Big Tony mocked from above. Anthony, kill me or slice me. Do as you please. Kevin showed a rare display of backbone. Kill you? I'm not that cruel. Big Tony's greedy gaze locked dead onto my egg, drool dripping down his Trex fangs. As long as you kowtow to me 3 times loudly and yell that your parents are animals, they'll spare your life. Bullshit, Kevin roared. Big Tony's eyes instantly turned cold. Got some spine. Mutant dogs, snatch that egg for me. I'm going to use it as an appetizer. Instantly, dozens of vicious dogs bared their fangs and surrounded us. Kevin suddenly reared up, his snapping turtle's hideous face fully exposed. Don't be afraid, Arthur. I'll protect you. He fiercely thrust his neck forward and with a crunch, bit dead onto the nose of the vicious dog at the very front, instantly tearing it apart. Blood sprayed wildly as the vicious dog retreated howling. The terrifying bite force of the snapping turtle temporarily deterred the pack of dogs, but the encirclement grew tighter and tighter. What a bunch of trash. Brutus, do it directly. Big Tony grew impatient. The giant Trex approached with heavy steps, the terrifying oppressive aura making Kevin swallow his saliva in despair. Arthur, save me. Kev, hold on, watch me. I calmed my mind, my mental power shooting into the sky, connecting with the rules of heaven and earth. The originally clear night sky was instantly covered with dark clouds. Gale force winds whipped up and blinding golden lightning rolled within the clouds, like the roaring of a furious god. The entire town was enveloped in terrifying darkness. Big Tony thought it was just an ordinary thunderstorm and dismissed it. Brutus opened his bloody maw, lunging straight for me. Kev, shout out loud. Heaven's punishment, divine thunder. I yelled explosively in his mind. Huh? What? Heaven. Heaven's punishment, divine thunder. Kevin closed his eyes and roared at the top of his lungs. Just as the words fell, boom! A golden divine thunderbolt, as thick as a pillar, tore through the clouds like a heavenly punishment, smashing with pinpoint accuracy right into the center of the compound. Dazzling lightning instantly swallowed everything. Furious electric currents ravaged the yard. Those vicious dogs that were ferocious just a moment ago didn't even have time to scream before they were instantly split into charred corpses, falling to the ground emitting black smoke. Staying in the center of the thunder, not only was I uninjured, but I felt comfortable all over. Wrapped in my dragon might, Kevin was also miraculously completely unharmed. He stared wide-eyed in shock at the purgatory-like scene around him. As for Brutus, who bore the brunt of it, his huge Trex head exploded like a watermelon, his brains smeared all over the ground. Big Tony, who was slightly further away, was swept by the aftershock of the lightning. His whole bodice flesh and skin blasted open, blood spurting wildly. His massive body crashed down, twitched a few times in the pool of blood, and the life in his eyes completely dissipated, his eyes closing forever. 2 ancient Trexes, instantly annihilated. Congratulations to the host for hunting 25 mutant dogs, obtaining 25 evolution points. Congratulations to the host for hunting 2 ancient Trexes, obtaining 200 evolution evolution points, current evolution points, 225. Remaining mana, 90. Hearing the system's frantic announcements, I was so excited I almost wanted to laugh like a maniac. This Heaven's Punishment Divine Thunder was actually a large-scale AoE skill. His power was simply apocalyptic. At this rate, as long as I pull off a few more AoE attacks to gather mana, they'll definitely be able to break out of the shell within a year. Congratulations to the host for completing the first blood, rewarding one spin on the talent roulette. A roulette will appear in the void before my eyes, flashing with god-tier magic skills like summoning wind and rain, shattering the earth, etc. The pointer spun rapidly and finally stopped on a skill. Obtain talent. Dragon's Wrath consumes 20 mana. One more skill meant one more trump card. I immediately concealed my aura. What's going on here? Kevin asked, stammering. Just a coincidence. Stop talking nonsense. Let's get out of here. I didn't intend to expose the system's secret. Trembling with fear, Kevin stepped over the charred corpses littering the ground, carrying me as we fled this purgatory-like town overnight. The forest at night was pitch black, but my mental power could see any rustle of leaves or blades of grass within a 10-meter radius. I literally became his living radar. Not far along, a palm-sized rat darted out from the bushes. Kevin subconsciously shrank into his turtle shell in fear. I was furious. Kev, you're a fucking North American snapping turtle about to enter its growth phase. Bite it to death. You need evolution points. If you don't even dare to kill a rat, how are you going to face those murderous mutant beasts in the future? My words woke him up. Kevin's eyes turned ruthless, and he lay in wait. The moment the rat got close, his neck shot out like a sharp sword. With a crunch, he instantly bit through the rat's cervical vertebrae. Arthur, I got one evolution point. Kevin danced with joy and immediately added the point to defense. I only heard a crisp crack of bones. His turtle shell visibly became thicker and heavier, and the barbs on his back shot up an inch, perfectly wedging my egg securely in the middle, turning him into a perfect mobile turret. The next morning, we rested by a mountain stream. I released a trace of dragon might, directly intimidating a large trout, making it obediently swim right up to Kevin's mouth. Kevin swallowed it in one bite, gaining another 3 evolution points. My best friend Kevin and I trekked across the redwood forest for 3 whole days until we finally saw the neon-lit city again. This was Portland. Unlike the ruins of collapsed order I imagined, the city's electrical equipment was still running. It's just that there were no cars on the streets, replaced instead by various large mutant animals roaming around. Just as we walked to the city limits entrance, several muscular, vicious dogs blocked our way. The leading dog was named Buster. He stared dead at me on Kevin's back, licking his lips, his drool about to drip. What do you mean turtle? I am a snapping turtle. Kevin got anxious on the spot at being called a regular turtle. Alright, snapping turtle. Buster gave a dry laugh, but his eyes never wanted to move away from my egg. No problem if you want to enter the city, but this is the territory of our vicious dog gang. You must pay a protection fee. Kevin shook his spike-covered turtle shell. Do you think I have any money on me right now? Buster laughed out loud like he was looking at an idiot. Who still takes US dollars now? Our protection fee is evolution points. Kevin was stunned. Buster sneered and explained. On the second day of animalization, someone discovered that evolution points could be directly traded and gifted. Herbivores only needed to stay put to passively earn daily survival evolution points. If they didn't hand over their points to the vicious dog gang on time, they would be bitten to death on the spot. But I've put all my evolution points into defense. I don't have a single drop left. Kevin spread his hands helplessly. As soon as the words left his mouth, a dozen vicious dogs around him instantly bared their fangs and closed in. Although Kevin's turtle shell was hard, if he really got ganged up on, it would definitely bode ill for him. Kev, don't panique. I have some. I immediately used the system to directly transfer 10 evolution points to Kevin. Kevin was startled. How do you have any? Don't forget, I told you I'm an ostrich egg, and ostriches are omnivores. I lied without batting an eye. As long as I didn't eat meat, I could keep freeloading the daily welfare evolution points of herbivores. Seeing that we could actually produce evolution points, Buster's face softened quite a bit. For points per person, 8 points in total. After paying the toll, the vicious dogs immediately made way. As soon as we walked far enough away, a dog lackey behind us couldn't hold back. Boss, that's definitely not an ostrich egg. It smells too good. I really want to eat it. Buster slapped the lackey on the head. Shut up. Of course I know that's not an ostrich egg, but that snapping turtle is not to be trifled with. We have to go back and let the dog king decide on this matter. After entering the city, Kevin looked around like a country bumpkin in the big city. Every dog here had evolved into the growth phase, transforming into the city street enforcers. Hey, are you new here? A pure white rabbit suddenly jumped out from the side of the road, scaring Kevin so much he almost shrank back into his shell. Big sis, are you trying to scare a turtle to death? Who's a big sis? I just turned 18. My name is Chloe. The white rabbit's sharp, big eyes darted around, subtly glancing at me. Completely off guard, Kevin spilled the beans about me being an ostrich egg brother. Chloe forcibly held back her look of regarding an idiot and warmly invited us to rest at her place. Kevin, whose legs were almost broken from walking for a day and a night, agreed without a second thought. Following Chloe, we walked to an increasingly remote area where there wasn't even a shadow of an animal. Chloe explained that herbivores had a low status and could only live in this kind of slum area. Kevin suddenly realized and nodded repeatedly. excitedly. I sneered inside my eggshell. This wasn't a slum. This was clearly a black inn. Arriving at a dilapidated apartment, Father and Mother Rabbit warmly welcomed us. Mother Rabbit even brought out a treasured piece of spam to treat Kevin. Kevin didn't hold back, wolfing it down. A few minutes later, his eyes rolled back, and he collapsed on the floor, snoring loudly. The drug is taking effect. Chloe jumped up excitedly. That piece of meat had been laced with a knockout drug by them well in advance. Mother Rabbit was a bit worried. Will we really be okay doing this?
Don't worry, Mom.
As long as we present this egg to the godfather of the vicious dog gang, he will definitely let our family out of the city and we'll be completely free, Chloe said excitedly. Hearing these three rabbits muttering, I almost laughed out loud inside my shell. I had searched far and wide for what I wanted, only to find it effortlessly. I was just worrying about how to get in touch with the higher-ups of the vicious dog gang, and this little rabbit voluntarily acted as my guide. To cooperate with her, I even deliberately rolled onto the soft cushion of the pushcart she had prepared when she pushed me. Chloe said goodbye to her parents and pushed me into the pitch-black streets. It's so dark here, she shrank her neck in fear. Is the vicious dog leader you mentioned very strong? I suddenly used my willpower to speak. Chloe was so terrified she violently grabbed her head, her heart almost jumping out of her throat. Was that you speaking? What the hell are you? I am this ostrich egg. My tone was flat. Liar. Ostrich eggs grow black scales. Chloe gritted her teeth, suddenly changed her mind, and pushed me back the way we came. No, I can't hand you over. You're a living person. I can't send you to your death. I was stunned for a moment. I didn't expect this American chick to have some conscience, but I had just managed to get out. How could I go back? Take me to see the vicious dog leader. My voice turned cold. No, the vicious dog leader is a monster about to enter the mature phase. If you go, you'll be sending yourself to death. Before she could finish her sentence, a mysterious, vast, oppressive aura suddenly erupted from me. Boom! Dragon might descended like Mount Tai. Chloe, this little rabbit, was instantly pinned to the ground, her whole body trembling violently, unable to move a single finger. In the face of bloodline suppression, she felt as if a grim reaper's scythe was hanging over her head, ready to harvest her soul at any moment. Take me there. My voice exploded like thunder. Chloe completely broke down. Wanting to cry, but having no tears, she climbed up and obediently tiptoed, pushing me toward the core territory of the vicious dog gang. On the way, I learned about the situation in this city from her. Besides the vicious dog gang, the biggest threat in the city was a swarm of rats. Before animalization, someone ate a rat. After turning into a rat pup, he actually used a special frequency to summon the native New York rat swarms from the sewers. They frantically devoured animals to evolve, and within a day, all of them entered the growth phase. Wherever they went, not a blade of grass grew, just like a natural disaster. Eventually, it was the vicious dog gang allying with other factions that barely managed to intimidate the rat swarm, demarcating a layout where the surface belonged to dogs and the sewers belonged to rats. And the boss of the vicious dog gang was a ruthless character. He penned up all the herbivores in the city, harvesting survival evolution points on time every day, using the methods of a Wall Street capitalist to frantically strengthen himself. He was on the verge of breaking through to the mature phase. Pretty smart dog. Too bad he ran into me. I sneered inwardly. We arrived at a magnificent 5-star hotel. A heavily muscled, medium-sized American bully blocked the way. He only took one look at me, and his eyes were instantly filled with greed. He didn't dare pocket me for himself. After shooing Chloe away, he used his head to push me, rolling me all the way into the hotel's most luxurious grand hall. In the hall, the hotel reception desk had been dismantled to form a giant throne covered in fluff. An all-black cane corso, larger than an adult tiger, was lazily lounging on the throne. This was the leader of the vicious dog gang, Tyson. Before animalization, he was a professional MMA fighter. He retained human combat awareness, and coupled with his size advantage, he sat securely on the Dog King throne. Godfather, the egg has been brought. The American bully respectfully retreated. Tyson slowly stepped down from the throne and came before me. He greedily licked his lips, his long canines gleaming with cold light. Even though I just had a late-night snack, seeing you, I'm hungry again. He couldn't wait to open his bloody maw, wanting to swallow me in one bite. I no longer hid my strength and instantly dropped all my disguises. Boom! Unreserved, top-tier dragon might raged frantically in the hall like a Category 12 tsunami. Kneel, lowly creature. My voice struck his soul like a massive bronze bell. Tyson only felt his internal organs churning violently, his entire skeleton popping under the pressure. His massive, formidable body, in the face of this absolute aura of a superior being, instantly collapsed to the floor like a puddle of mud. Hearing the commotion, the dog lackeys outside rushed into the hall, but before they could even clearly see my face, they were uniformly flattened against the ground by the oppressive aura, unable to move. What kind of monster are you? Tyson's eyes were blood red. Gritting his teeth, he actually tried to resist. This MMA fighter's willpower was indeed tenacious. Without mercy, I elevated the pressure once more. Tyson finally couldn't hold on and roared in despair. Stop! I submit! Stop it! I withdrew the dragon might. Tyson was panting heavily, as if he had been fished out of water. The dozens of vicious dogs in the room shivered, looking at me as if they were looking at a grim reaper. What do you want? Tyson asked in terror. Evolution points. Either hand over all your evolution points, or all of you will become my evolution points. I coldly issued my ultimatum. In the face of absolute power, the law of the jungle is the the only rule. Tyson knew I wasn't joking. With a thought, a cluster of blue-white light merged into my eggshell. Following that, all the vicious dogs in the hall handed theirs over. Congratulations to the host for obtaining 13,000 evolution points. Convert to mana? Convert. A full 1,300 mana points were credited instantly. The thrill of getting rich overnight refreshed my mind. Without hesitation, I consumed 1,000 mana points, directly chopping off 1,000 years from my incubation period. Immediately after, the system unlocked the special reward for the first accelerated incubation. 1 free talent draw. The roulette will spun, and the pointer stopped steadily. Congratulations to the host for obtaining talent. Mana Siphon automatically generates 100 mana points per day through breathing. I gasped. This meant that even if I did nothing, I could get 10,000 evolution points for free every day. It was simply a cheat skill that would make a capitalist weep. As long as I controlled the vicious dog gang and used them as my harvesting machines, plus the daily welfare points, the day of my hatching would definitely be close at hand. From today on, the vicious dog gang is renamed Dragon's Nest. The rules remain the same, Tyson continues to manage, but the daily evolution points must be offered on time. I set the rules. The pack of dogs didn't dare say half a word of dissent, shouting in unison, "Boss." At this moment, Tyson cautiously reported a crisis. "Boss, the godfather of the cat faction in the neighboring block is preparing to ally with the Rat King from the sewers to wipe us out in one fell swoop." I looked at a husky next to me with a face full of flattery. His name was Finn, the strategist of the Dragon's Nest. Finn wagged his tail and proposed, "Boss, my plan is to use a fire attack. Well, collect animal fur and ignite it to burn those cats and rats to death. But the problem is, we lack a bait that can lure them all over." I sneered, "Bait? That's simple. Spread the word that you've obtained a peerless divine artifact that can make animals evolve instantly. In terms of temptation, who else in the world could beat my ancient divine dragon egg?" That night, I was pushed by Finn to the most luxurious presidential suite on the top floor to rest. Although this husky was stupid, he was quite good at serving people. Early the next morning, a violent roar suddenly erupted outside the hotel. Kevin had woken up. After discovering my disappearance, this snapping turtle had gone completely berserk. He stepped on Father Rabbit's head, forced out my whereabouts, and forcefully tied a red string around Chloe's neck, dragging her all the way to the hotel entrance like walking a dog. "Stinking dogs, hand Arthur over." Kevin opened his snapping turtle maw, capable of crushing bone, and was at daggers drawn with the American bully guarding the door. Being called a stinking dog, the American bully's muscles bulged with rage, on the verge of shedding all pretense of cordiality. "Kev, I'm over here." The doors of the hall were pushed open, and I sat steadily in a chair on the back of the husky Finn, being carried out like the moon surrounded by stars. Kevin's eyeballs almost dropped to the floor. He could never have imagined that the ostrich egg brother he fought to save had, overnight, become the godfather of the biggest gang in the city. I cleared up the misunderstanding, released the half-dead from fright rabbit Chloe, and brought Kevin into the hall. After hearing my fire attack plan of using myself as bait, Kevin looked disdainful. "TCH, and here I thought you were playing some big game of chess. Using yourself as bait? Why would those cats and rats believe a broken egg like you?" The dog lackeys also looked bewildered. Just bragging with words, who would believe it? Why? Because of this, I didn't waste any more words. With a thought, I fully released the deliberately hidden special effects of the dragon egg. In an instant, a dazzling, colorful magic light shot out from inside my eggshell. Mysterious ancient runes flowed over the pitch-black scales, and an indescribable exotic fragrance and abundant energy fluctuation instantly filled the entire hall. Dead silence. The whole place fell into a deathly silence. I felt something was wrong. I looked down and saw that all the dogs, including Kevin, had their eyes turned completely red. It was an ultimate, primitive, and maddening urge to feed, buried deep within animal DNA. The way they looked at me was like looking at a holy grail that could make them ascend to heaven on the spot. If they hadn't retained their human reason, they would have swarmed up and torn me to pieces by now. Boom! I quickly erupted with dragon might. The oppressive aura fell upon them, and Kevin and the dog pack instantly snapped awake, breaking out in a cold sweat. "Boss, this is too effective. I almost lost control just now." The pack of dogs shouted fanatically. The bait was ready, and the deadly trap officially kicked off. In just 2 hours, the news that the dragon's nest had obtained a magic glowing egg spread throughout the city like it had grown wings. Rumor had it that as long as you ate this egg, you could instantly awaken the dragon bloodline and dominate the world. Late at night, on the third day, in a dilapidated warehouse on the outskirts of the city, a dozen vicious dogs were outside pretending to patrol. Inside the warehouse, I lay quietly on a table, emitting a tempting colorful halo. Beneath the warehouse, rustling sounds came from an abandoned sewer pipe. Rat King Rizzo's advance squad had bypassed the guards and quietly sneaked in. The lead giant rat stared dead at me, glowing on the table, trembling all over. "It's true. It really is a dragon egg, exactly the same as described in fantasy legends. That fatal genetic temptation made the eyes of all the rats turn green. But rats are naturally suspicious. The leading rat kicked a lackey next to him. "You, go down and scout. Retreat immediately if there's danger." That little rat didn't dare disobey. Shivering, he leaped down from the water pipe and landed on the warehouse floor. Tiptoeing, he approached me, checking back and forth around the table. After confirming there was no ambush, the little rat let out a long sigh of relief, a flash of extreme greed passing through his eyes. The act of inviting the prey into the urn was completely successful, and they had no idea that around this warehouse, dry grass and and gasoline were already piled up high. As soon as Rizzo's main force arrived, what would greet them would be the true flames of hell. The news I released about the magic glowing egg completely ignited the whole city. Hiding in the sewers, Rat King Rizzo took the bait as expected. This guy was originally a pretentious Wall Street white-collar worker. To survive the apocalypse, he forcefully swallowed a rat off a mousetrap, becoming a mutant giant rat. He was extremely cunning. To ensure absolute success, he actually approached his natural enemy Lord Silas of the cat faction, planning to use these stupid cats as cannon fodder to draw the vicious dog gang's frontal fire. But he didn't know at all that the current strategist for the cat boss was none other than my undercover best friend, Kevin. In the unlit, abandoned factory, the bosses of the cat and rat factions met secretly. Kevin frantically fanned the flames in the cat boss ear, directly facilitating this absurd cat-rat alliance. Not only did the cat boss agree to a frontal assault, but relying on his overwhelming strength, he bluntly extorted a full 1,000 evolution points from Rat King Rizzo as a deposit. Although Rizzo's heart bled from the pain, in order to obtain my egg that could awaken the dragon bloodline, he could only grit his teeth and swallow his anger. Early the next morning, a bloody battle broke out. Outside the doors of the Dragon's Nest headquarters hotel, hundreds of mutant feral cats surged over like a tide. Cat boss Silas leaped, his massive body pulling out a terrifying afterimage in midair. His sharp claws instantly tore through the throat of a golden retriever. Blood sprayed wildly, and screams tore through the tranquility of the morning. Dog King Tyson roared with rage, and like a maddened bull, he crashed Hedon into the cat boss. Both sides were trained fighters before animalization, and they instantly locked in a death struggle. But a cat's agility naturally countered a dog's clumsiness. Furthermore, after the cat boss' frantic exploitation of herbivores over the past few days, his strength was approaching the mature phase. After a few rounds, Tyson's back was scratched so deeply that bones were visible, his flesh torn to shreds. Flesh and blood flew at the front door as the dog pack retreated step by step. And this was exactly the lure the tiger out of the mountain diversion Rizzo wanted. At this time, inside the warehouse, it was so quiet you could hear a pin drop. Rustling sounds came from the sewer pipes. Rizzo, leading his most elite rat lackeys, had silently sneaked up to my table. Looking at the colorful divine light flowing over my eggshell, Rizzo's eyes instantly turned blood red with the ultimate greed hidden deep within his genes. Thirsty and ravenous, he took 2 steps forward, wanting to swallow me in one bite. But at this critical hair's breadth moment, he suddenly bit down hard on his own tongue and forcibly stopped in his tracks. There's something wrong with this egg. There's a fatal danger. Cold sweat poured down Rizzo's face. Forcibly suppressing his feeding instinct, he pointed randomly at a few rat lackeys who had just entered the growth phase. You guys, go move the egg down for me. Hiding inside the shell, I couldn't help but curse old Fox in my heart. His perception was actually sharp to this degree, even detecting the killing intent I had locked onto him. No wonder he could lead the New York rat swarm to turn the tables in the city. However, you want to use me as an EXP pack? Dream on. Just as those little rats ran to the edge of the table, I didn't hesitate to activate the god tier attack talent I just drew. Dragon's Wrath. Boom! A crimson magical hexagram array instantly formed on the tabletop. A terrifying wave of orangered fire surged out like a tsunami. The scorching heat instantly drained the oxygen from the warehouse. Those mutant rats that approached didn't even have time to let out half a scream before they were directly vaporized by the overwhelmingly domineering flames, leaving not even a trace of ash behind. This terrifying, miracle-like scene instantly shattered the courage of all the rats. Flee! Rizzo shrieked, turning around to dive back into the sewer. But before they could run even 2 steps, I unleashed top-tier dragon might without reservation, smashing it down on them. Boom! The invisible pressure was like 100,000 mountains crashing down on their heads. With a thud, Rizzo and the remaining rats were all slapped firmly against the ground. Their bones let out cracking sounds from being unable to bear the heavy burden, unable to move even a single whisker. The warehouse doors were kicked open. The American bully and Husky Finn, leading a dozen dogs, surrounded them entirely. I originally thought this Rat King was a tough nut to crack and that I would have to waste some breath on him next. As a result, Rizzo looked up at the dog lackeys around him, then looked at me high above. His previously ferocious expression instantly vanished. He immediately performed an extremely smooth sliding kneel, collapsing on the floor with all 4 limbs up, even bringing a crying tone. Godfather, I admit defeat. Don't kill me. I'll do whatever you say. The dog pack present was completely dumbfounded. I almost laughed out loud inside my shell. This rat really took better a live coward than a dead hero to the extreme. However, his shrewdness in being able to bow and submit so flexibly was definitely not simple. I spoke coldly. You want to work for the mafia? Fine. Go kill the cat boss and use his life as your certificate of loyalty. At this time, the battlefield at the front door had completely collapsed. Tyson was riddled with injuries and firmly suppressed by the cat boss. Defeat was only a matter of time. Hiding behind the cat pack, Kevin was anxious like an ant on a hot pan. He knew he couldn't wait any longer and was about to disregard the backlash and forcibly activate the trump card I had sealed inside him. Heaven's punishment, divine thunder to perish together. Right at this critical hair's breadth moment, a black bolt of lightning suddenly tore through the battlefield, charging straight for the cat boss. It was Rat King Rizzo. At the moment of his charge, Rizzo actually activated an extremely terrifying mutation ability. His originally massive body expanded crazily like a blown-up balloon, becoming larger than an adult tiger in the blink of an eye. The cat boss barely reacted and didn't even have time to swing his claws. Squelch. Rizzo's fangs, capable of biting through steel plating, acted like two giant daggers, instantly piercing through the cat boss' throat. Scarlet blood spurted up 3 feet high like a fountain. The cat boss pupils violently contracted. With eyes full of disbelief, he crashed to the ground, his breath completely gone. Silas is dead. Whoever dares to resist will meet the same end as him. Rizzo, his face covered in blood, roared at the sky. The cat pack, which was fierce and brutal a second ago, instantly had their courage shattered, tucking their tails and surrendering their weapons. A bloody, brutal battle was thus forcibly terminated by Rizzo through extremely violent means. In less than 3 minutes, dragging the cat boss corpse, Rizzo returned to the warehouse panting heavily. His massive body rapidly shrank back. He lay weakly on the floor, his face full of flattery. Boss, the certificate of loyalty is delivered. Do you think my sincerity is enough? Well done. Since that's the case, then bow your head and declare your allegiance. I didn't say any nonsense. I directly threw down a full 500 mana points and activated the god tier passive talent I won from the lottery dragon soul contract. Roar. A high-pitched, majestic ancient dragon roar exploded directly in the deepest part of Rizzo's soul. Rizzo's vision went black. Without even a chance to struggle, he fainted on the spot. This was the most overbearing magical slave contract. Even if he died, he couldn't generate the slightest thought of betraying me. When Rizzo woke up again, the way he looked at me contained nothing but absolute fanaticism and obedience. Thus, the 3 major factions of Portland's City Vicious Dogs, Swarm Cats, and Rabid Rats were completely molded by me into a monolithic block. The resources of the entire city all became nutrients for my accelerated incubation. Looking at the massive amount of evolution points rolling in like flowing water every day, I felt not the slightest joy in my heart, but rather a strong surge of uneasiness. It was only the early stage of animalization, and an ordinary human like Rizzo had actually mutated the ability to expand his body size comparable to a titan behemoth. Then, deep in the wilderness of this planet, what kind of terrifying monsters would those originally ferocious beasts mutate into? The comfort of the city was merely an illusion. It wouldn't be long before a more terrifying reshuffle descended. To gather outside intelligence, I had Kevin carry me out of Portland's city gates. Less than a kilometer away from the city's protection, I experienced what the law of the jungle truly meant. The wild was entirely a pure meat grinder. Unlike the gangs in the city that formed cliques and oppressed their own kind, the animals here, for the sake of survival and evolution, had long since completely lost their reason, entirely degrading into bloodthirsty beasts dominated by killing instincts. Even more terrifying was that the top-tier bloodline aura emitted by my divine dragon egg was a deadly poison to them. Along the way, venomous snakes, wild boars, and coyotes hiding in the shadows launched suicide attacks on us like crazy. If it weren't for my mental radar's early warnings, Kevin would have been torn to pieces long ago. What the fuck? Did this guy turn from a human? Why is he acting like a zombie? Kevin stared dead at a North American gray wolf that darted out from the bushes ahead. The gray wolf's eyes still retained a trace of human terror, but its body uncontrollably drooled, lunging at me frantically to kill. Stop talking nonsense, Kev. In the wild, there are no humans, only prey. I shouted coldly from inside the eggshell. Nourished by my evolution points, Kevin had officially stepped into the growth phase, and his bite force was extremely terrifying. Seeing the right moment, his neck shot out like a spring. With a crunch, he bit dead onto the gray wolf's hind leg in midair and violently whipped it around. Bang! The gray wolf smashed heavily onto the ground. A large chunk of flesh was torn from its hind leg, exposing the bone. It struggled to its feet, staring dead at me. The madness in its eyes not only didn't fade but grew even more intense. Dragging its crippled leg, it didn't flee. Instead, it slowly backed up 2 steps, suddenly raised its neck, and let out an extremely shrill howl at the vast wilderness. A woo! The high-pitched wolf howl instantly pierced the silence of the wild, echoing far away. Damn it, Arthur. This guy can't win, so he's calling for backup. He's summoning the wolf pack. Kevin was terrified pale, all 4 legs trembling. My mental domain instantly spread out. I saw bushes in all directions begin to shake violently, and dense tremors came from the ground. Pairs of eerie green eyes lit up one after another in the gloomy jungle, like ghost fires rising from hell. Dozens, fully over 100 massive wild wolves, drooling with greedy saliva, were frantically converging on us from all directions. Kevin was so scared his 4 legs trembled. Arthur, what do we do? We're going to be eaten alive by this pack of monsters. I sneered inside the eggshell. What are you afraid of? I'm here. Without any nonsense, with a thought, the god-tier talent Heaven's Punishment Divine Thunder instantly erupted. Boom! A bolt from the blue tore through the sky. Furious golden thunder, like an apocalyptic punishment sent by the gods, instantly turned a 50-meter radius centered on me into a blinding ocean of lightning. The stench of char rose to the sky. When the lightning dispersed, all the originally ferocious wolves had turned into charred corpses littering the ground. Congratulations to the host for killing 37 mutant gray wolves, 2 giant pythons, obtaining a total of 879 evolution points. Hearing the system prompt tones ringing madly in my head, I was thrilled to the core. Just firing randomly in the wild yielded all growth phase monsters. This wave was an absolute massive profit. However, the side effect was quite quite awkward. The aftermath of the heavenly thunder ignited the surrounding dry leaves. To prevent a forest fire, I had to make Kevin run to a nearby puddle to roll around, then bitterly stomp out fires for 2 hours. As night fell, we spent the night at an abandoned motel. Just then, an ethereal, grandiose voice exploded for the second time in the minds of all humanity without any warning. Ding! Detected the mass appearance of animals with unnatural abilities. Global animalization order is newly perfected. Genetic tree complete evolution routes unlocked. Consume specific evolution points to activate exclusive special abilities. The second descent of the Earths will completely detonated the entire world. This meant that this cruel survival game had officially entered the era of mutant superpowers. Kevin had gone completely mad. Looking at the luxuriant genetic tree in his mind, he trembled with excitement. He actually dumped all his evolution points into an evolution route called Heavy Armor. Even more outrageous was that this route exclusively added fucking speed. Arthur, you are definitely the chosen one from a novel. Kevin's eyes sparkled. As long as I activate my special ability and become the fastest armored turtle in the world, they'll definitely be able to take you as my lackey. I almost spat blood inside my eggshell. This grandson, even at a time like this, was actually still thinking about taking me as his lackey. Time flew by. 1 month later, Portland City had been completely unified by the dragon's nest I established. All stray animals became leaks that paid evolution points to me on time. Rat King Rizzo, who was out gathering intel, had also returned. He brought extremely bad news. Los Angeles, the hometown of Kevin and me, had been completely taken over by a pride of mutant lions. Even more terrifying was that the leader of the lion pride, the Golden Lion King, had actually awakened an extremely terrifying special ability. This made my feeling of uneasiness grow even stronger. If I let this pride of mutant lions grow unchecked, they would definitely become a stumbling block for my future conquest of the world. I decided to return to Los Angeles. Kevin insisted on coming along, so our turtle and egg duo set off on the journey once again. I have to say, Kevin's bizarre stat allocation of fully investing in speed actually worked. An originally 1-week journey was forcefully cut in half by him, just as we were about to arrive at the redwood forest on the outskirts of Los Angeles. The earth trembled. A huge, brown, furry figure suddenly darted out from the depths of the forest, stumbling and scrambling to hide behind Kevin. Help! I'm safe! Kevin turned around in horror. It was actually a talking North American grizzly bear. Before we could react, 8 mutant rabid lions, larger than pickup trucks and carrying a suffocating stench of blood, surrounded us completely. Running, are we? You fat bear. Obediently come back to Los Angeles with us to face your death. The leading lion sneered ferociously. Facing these behemoths, the grizzly bear was so scared he directly covered his ears, crouching on the ground shivering. The leading lion's gaze shifted, staring dead at my radiant dragon egg. Greed instantly swallowed his reason. Ha ha ha, there's actually an unexpected harvest. Taking this egg back to present to the Lion King will absolutely be a great merit. Courting death, I snorted coldly, and my strongest passive dragon might instantly erupted fully. Boom! The supreme bloodline suppression slammed down like 100,000 mountains. With a series of thuds, the 7 lions around were all pressed flat against the ground, unable to move. But to my absolute shock, that leading Lion King actually withstood my dragon might through sheer force. He threw his head back and let out a shrill, furious roar. His original brown fur was instantly dyed a layer of eerie blood red, his muscles expanding crazily like they were being inflated, and his eyes shot out soul-stirring vicious glares. Aberration ability? My heart sank heavily inside the egg. This was actually a rabid Lion King who had awakened superpower aberration. My dragon might was ineffective against him. Go to hell. Bringing a brutal gust of wind, the aberrant Lion King shot straight at me like a blood-colored cannonball. His massive claws, capable of tearing steel, smashed down from above. Kev, close your eyes, I roared in his mind. Kevin was frightened out of his wits. Without a second thought, he directly closed his eyes and forcefully activated the trump card I had sealed inside him. Heaven's punishment, divine thunder. Boom! The terrifying golden heavenly punishment tore through the sky once again, viciously striking the aberrant Lion King. The lightning annihilated everything, and the 7 ordinary lions around were instantly scorched into charred corpses. But when the smoke cleared, that aberrant Lion King, although charred black all over with his flesh torn open, still retained a breath of life. A blinding red light suddenly erupted from his body. Borrowing this bizarre blood-colored energy, he actually turned into an afterimage, fleeing wildly into the distance. In the blink of an eye, he ran hundreds of meters away. It's over. Don't let him get away. Hell, go back and report. The grizzly bear screamed in despair. He can't escape. I was thoroughly murderous. To deal with this kind of wild card, I must pull it out by the roots. Dragon's Wrath. I directly locked onto his aura. A crimson hexagram array formed above my head, and a terrifying orangered fireball, like a tracking missile trailing a long flame, crossed space and smashed with pinpoint accuracy right into that frantically fleeing blood-colored back. Boom! The shrill scream came to an abrupt halt. That aberrant Lion King, who could even withstand divine thunder, was completely burned into nothingness under the absolute single-target burst of magic. Ding! Congratulations to the host for crossdire killing a mature phase aberrant lion. Obtained 1,780 evolution points. Hearing the exaggerated evolution point yield in my head, I was secretly astounded. The value of an aberrant animal was simply terrifying. With the crisis resolved, Kevin slumped on the ground panting heavily, turning his head to size up that grizzly bear. Upon closer inspection, the two of them actually exclaimed at the same time. This grizzly bear was actually Kevin's rich kid childhood friend from Los Angeles, Preston. The two brothers in hardship staged an absurd turtle meets North American beast reunion drama in the forest. Because Preston was an extremely perverted wild game enthusiast, he had spent a fortune to eat a smuggled grizzly bear meat meal at a private manor before the apocalypse, which was why he turned into his current appearance. After catching up, Preston tearfully recounted to us the current tragic state of Los Angeles. After the Earthswell descended for the second time, the Wrathflame Lion Pride in Los Angeles discovered a terrifying bug for farming evolution points. As long as herbivores were pushed to the brink of life and death, they would yield double the evolution points the next day. To exploit this bug, that pride of brutal lions drove all the herbivores in the city into a massive enclosed stadium, staging a real-life Hunger Games inside every day. Frantic pursuits and bites left a tenth of the animals bitten to death alive every single day. They were using the lives of countless animals to frantically artificially ripen their aberration abilities. As a grizzly bear, the North American overlord with the largest size and the highest evolution point yield, Preston knew that once he was caught, he would definitely be slaughtered like the fattest sheep, so he fought to the death to escape. Hearing all this, Kevin burned with anger. His parents were very likely still in Los Angeles, their fate unknown. "Arthur, we absolutely must go to Los Angeles." Kevin gnashed his teeth. "Since they want to play the Hunger Games, then they'll go flip their board." My voice was filled with absolute icy chill. Facing a group of heinous rabid lions who had mastered aberration abilities, conventional methods were no longer enough. Without hesitation, I smashed down 2,000 mana points, communicating with the system to forcibly extract a new god-tier talent. Ding. Congratulations to the host for obtaining large-scale soul attack talent. Dragon Roar Soul Quell? Dragon Roar Soul Quell consumes mana to unleash a heaven-shaking dragon roar. Can cause massive AoE strong stun. If overcharged with mana, it will directly bypass physical defense and shatter the enemy's souls. This was simply a perfect finishing skill tailor-made for those thick-skinned aberrant lions. So what if your body is strong? It'll directly crush your soul. Kev, let's go. We're going to Los Angeles to meet this so-called Golden Lion King. Since you barely managed to escape, why do you insist on going back to Los Angeles with us to die? I stared at the grizzly bear, Preston, in front of me. Preston, who was smiling playfully a second ago, instantly had his eyes turn red. With a thud, he knelt before Kevin. "Kev, Boss Arthur, I'm begging you, please help me." It turned out that in order to extort evolution points, the Wrathflame Lion Pride in Los Angeles actually targeted Preston's grizzly bear family, the highest producers, and wanted to throw them all into the gladiator arena where they raised venomous creatures. To protect the whole family, Preston's father led them in an overnight breakout. They were met with a bloodbath by the Lion Pride. His father was bitten to death on the spot by the Lion King, and only Preston managed to fight his way out. The enmity of killing my father is irreconcilable. Boss Arthur, as long as you help me get revenge, Preston's life belongs to you from now on. Looking at Preston's bloodshot eyes, Kevin also got angry. "Arthur, help him. Let's go flip the board in Los Angeles," I coldly commanded. 7 days later, we finally arrived at the outskirts of Los Angeles. Bizarrely, the closer we got to the city, the fewer wild animals there were. In the end, we couldn't even see a rat. They were all caught and brought into the city as nourishment by those lions. Preston gritted his teeth. To avoid alerting the snake, Preston took us to a spooky, abandoned cemetery. After digging up a hidden manhole cover, we squeezed into an underground air raid shelter. But at the end of the tunnel, we were completely blocked by a concrete load-bearing wall over 10 meters thick. "Boss Arthur, it's up to you." Preston looked at me with fanatical eyes. I didn't waste words, locking directly onto the front. Dragon's Wrath, a terrifying orange-eared fireball smashed into the wall. Even the aberrant Lion King, who could withstand divine thunder, was insta-killed by this move, let alone a mere concrete wall. An ear-piercing melting sound rang out, and the load-bearing wall, over 10 meters thick, was instantly burned through, leaving a pitch-black hole 2 meters wide. Carrying me, Kevin swaggered into the heart of downtown Los Angeles. To find a safe place to stay, Preston took us over the wall into a luxury villa in Beverly Hills. As soon as we entered the yard, Kevin was so scared he almost wet himself. The yard was densely packed with coyotes, jaguars, and venomous snakes. They were all fucking carnivores. Over 100 pairs of eerie green eyes stared dead at me, drooling all over the floor. Just as I was preparing to release Dragon Might to suppress them, the villa door opened. A slender black panther full of explosive power walked out. This was actually Preston's cousin, Penelope. Not only had she evolved to the mature phase, but she had also secretly subdued this group of carnivores. Upon learning of our intentions, Penelope gave me a deeply wary look. She agreed to scout out intel on the Lion King for us tomorrow, telling me to prepare a trap to lure him in. But plans couldn't keep up with changes. Early the next morning, Penelope rushed into the yard covered in blood. "Bad news. The Lion Pride is going after your mom." Hearing this, Preston's eyes instantly filled with blood, and a terrifying roar, unlike a human's, emanated from his throat. He completely descended into madness, shoved Kevin aside, and like a rampaging heavy tank, dashed madly toward the stadium-turned-gladiator arena by the Lion Pride. "Crap, hurry and keep up." By the time Kevin and I rushed to the stadium entrance, the scene had already turned into a meat grinder. Preston was fighting a bloody battle battle surrounded by dozens of lions. He completely abandoned defense, allowing lion claws to tear deep gashes to the bone on his body, in exchange for smashing a lion's head with a single paw strike. But 2 fists are no match for 4 hands. As his stamina drained, Preston's bizarre berserk state suddenly faded, and he was instantly pinned to the ground by several lions. Roar! A terrifying lion's roar shocked the whole audience. The absolute ruler of Los Angeles, the leader of the Wrath Flame Lion Pride Golden Lion King, Rex walked out stepping on the blood-covered floor. Not only was he as massive as an elephant, but he had also awakened an extremely rare special ability. Rex looked down at Preston from above and cruelly waved his claws. Several lions brought Preston's mother up. Old thing, hand over all your evolution points. Otherwise, they'll let you watch your son be torn to pieces bit by bit. Rex suspended his sharp claws over Preston's head. Preston's mother broke down crying, handing over all the massive evolution points she had accumulated to Rex without hesitation. Ha ha ha, wouldn't it have been fine if you gave it earlier? Rex greedily absorbed the evolution points, but his eyes instantly turned incredibly venomous. However, since you dared to rebel against me, today your whole family must die. Rex fiercely raised his golden giant claws and viciously slashed down toward Preston's mother's throat. Kev, enter the arena. At this critical hair's breadth moment, Kevin, carrying me, crashed heavily into the center of the battlefield. I didn't waste half a word, instantly draining a full 500 mana points. Dragon roar solquel. Roar, an ancient dragon roar that shattered the heavens, carrying the terrifying divine power to pulverize souls, exploded simultaneously in the minds of hundreds of lions in the arena. Following that, I unreservedly poured down the highest level of dragon might. Double god tier suppression. Thud, thud, thud. The hundreds of rabid lions that were arrogant and domineering just a moment ago didn't even let out a single scream before they collapsed into a swoon like harvested wheat. Foaming at the mouth, they fell all over the ground. As for that insufferably arrogant golden lion King Rex, although he didn't faint by relying on his formidable strength, his soul had been completely and heavily wounded. Bleeding from his 7 orifices, he was firmly pinned to the ground by dragon might, unable to move a single finger. What kind of monster are you? Rex stared with wide, terrified eyes. Looking at my dragon egg suspended over his head, he felt an unprecedented fear of death, evolution points, and the entire city of Los Angeles. I coldly issued the judgment. Rex completely broke down. He didn't even have the courage to bargain, obediently handing over all his accumulated foundations. A sky full of blue-white light points poured into my eggshell like a galaxy. Ding. Congratulations to the host for obtaining 245,974 evolution points. A full 240,000. I struck it rich overnight. I directly threw down 10,000 mana points, making the incubation period instantly shortened by 1,000 years. I withdrew the dragon might. Regaining his freedom, Preston, with red eyes, sat his butt firmly on Rex. His fists rained down madly on REX's head. Shrill screams pierced the sky, and Preston finally avenged the sea of blood. Just as I was sorting through my loot, screech, an extremely piercing eagle cry suddenly came from the sky. A mutant bald eagle, with a wingspan of 7 to 8 meters, stared dead at my eggshell radiating colorful divine light, its eyes full of greed. Like a fighter jet, it tucked its wings and launched a death dive straight at me. Reckless thing. I snorted coldly, and a strand of dragon might shot straight into the clouds. That bald eagle was struck as if by lightning in midair. Its whole body stiffened, directly losing its balance, and with a smack, it crashed heavily right at Kevin's feet. Acting tough, quick-witted, Kevin firmly pressed his claws onto the sea eagle's neck. Let me go. Do you country bumpkins know who I am? The sea eagle struggled desperately. Not only did he lack the slightest awareness of being a prisoner, but he roared with extreme arrogance. I am an envoy of the Goshawk King from the neighboring state. If you dare touch me, the Golden Lion King will absolutely tear you to shreds. The Golden Lion King? Are you talking about that pile of mashed meat on the ground that's about to be beaten to death? Kevin pointed to Rex, who was beaten to a bloody pulp by Preston next to them. The sea eagle turned his head to look, instantly gasped, and was scared silly. I asked with great interest, using my willpower, "What are you doing looking for Rex?" The sea eagle swallowed his saliva, his tone carrying unconcealable terror and fanaticism. By the order of the Goshawk King, inviting the Los Angeles leader to head to Chicago to plot great affairs of the world together. I sneered coldly. It seemed that the chessboard of this apocalypse was even bigger than I imagined. I sneered out loud from inside the eggshell. Great affairs of the world? Too bad you're a step too late. I told Kevin to drag him out into the yard. When the sea eagle saw the once insufferably arrogant ruler of Los Angeles Golden Lion King Rex, now lying on the ground shivering like a dead dog, he was completely dumbfounded, even forgetting to struggle. From the sea eagle's mouth, I learned that the Goshawk King of the Midwest had unified air superiority over the entire continent and was preparing to ally with various warlord factions to fight for dominance over the world. Interesting. In that case, I will replace the Golden Lion King, go to Chicago to attend this bloody banquet, and meet this Goshawk King. But the sea eagle was deceitful by nature. To prevent him from dropping me mid-flight, I directly dialed up the intensity on him. I continuously released Dragon Roar Soul Quell 5 times, torturing his soul to the brink of collapse. Amidst the sea eagle's tearful pleas, I spent 500 mana to forcefully brand him with the Dragon Soul contract. From that moment on, this mutant sea eagle completely became my marionette, even his thoughts entirely taken over by me. I gave him a new name, Apollo. The situation in Los Angeles settled down. That night, I gathered all the animal bosses in the city and publicly announced the abolition of REX's brutal Hunger Games-style massacres, and significantly reduced the protection fee ratio for hunting organizations outside the city. This decision instantly detonated the entire city. Countless oppressed herbivores and hunting teams wept with joy, prostrating themselves on the ground and consecrating me as the sole godfather of Los Angeles. He who wins the hearts of the people wins the world. Early the next morning, the bosses of all the major districts respectfully offered yesterday's harvest. A full 40,000 plus evolution points, and this was the yield after they had retained a portion for themselves. This output was a full 3 times that of Portland City. I converted all these 40,000 plus evolution points into mana and unhesitatingly threw it in. Ding! Consumed 11,680 mana points. Incubation period shortened by 1,168 years. Hearing the system prompt in my mind, my whole body felt refreshed. At this wealth-gathering speed, as long as I take down the more densely populated Chicago, the day of my hatching will absolutely be just around the corner. But once I leave, someone must stay behind to guard Los Angeles. I set my sights on Preston. He came from a wealthy Beverly family, understood management, and with the assistance of his Black Panther cousin, he was the best candidate. To ensure he could hold down the fort after I left, I decided to give him a grand gift. Preston, are you ready? The process might hurt a bit. Preston patted his furry chest. Boss Arthur, bring it on. Boom! I directly communicated with the magic network, invoked the heavenly punishment Divine Thunder, and unreservedly smashed it into Preston's body. Shrill screams instantly pierced the night sky. Preston lay on the ground, charred black all over, struck by the violent thunder until he wished he were dead. Kevin, watching from the side, shrank his neck. He had only taken 3 bolts of divine thunder before and almost kicked the bucket. But I underestimated the perverted constitution of this North American beast. Preston. This kid actually gritted his teeth and forcefully sealed a full 18 bolts of Heaven's Punishment Divine Thunder inside his body. This also meant he now possessed the ability to launch 18 apocalyptic AoE nuclear strikes. In Los Angeles, he was the absolute ceiling of combat power. As for Kevin, he cared too much about his face and stubbornly refused to accept the Heavenly Thunder Seal. Kev, how many evolution points do you still need to activate your special ability? I'll lend them to you. I unceremoniously tossed him 5,000 evolution points. Excited, Kevin closed his eyes on the spot and began to evolve. A few minutes later, with a loud boom, his villa's courtyard wall was directly smashed down. When the dust settled, a terrifying behemoth resembling a military heavy tank appeared in the rubble. Kevin's turtle shell was covered in a layer of pale gold energy armor, bristling with hideous spikes. He successfully activated his special ability heavy armor. This thing not only had extremely perverted defensive power, but could also resonate with earth elemental magic to instantly burst out with terrifying thrust comparable to a sports car. Now, this kid had completely become an indestructible land chariot. But Kevin made an unexpected decision. Arthur, I'm not going to Chicago with you. With my turtle speed, I'd just be dragging you down if I went. I've decided to return to Portland City alone to guard the home front for you. Looking at his lonely yet resolute figure from behind, I didn't ask him to stay. Between brothers, too many words aren't needed. Right before leaving the city, Kevin turned his head and roared at me at the top of his lungs. Arthur, don't you fucking bite the dust. When I get stronger, I'm definitely taking you as my lackey. I smiled. This grandson, he was still fucking obsessing over that. After Kevin left, I also began to take action. I had my subordinates find 2 nimble mutant raccoons to tightly tie a custom-made wooden box onto Apollo's back, and then steadily placed my dragon egg, radiating with colorful divine light, inside. Apollo, take off. I gave the command. Apollo let out a high-pitched eagle cry, spread his massive wings measuring over 2 meters, whipped up a gust of wind, and carried me straight into the clouds. Los Angeles on the ground rapidly shrank in my field of vision. Facing the piercingly cold winds of the high altitude, my mental radar looked down upon this apocalyptic wasteland that was both devastated yet full of vitality. 2,000 kilometers away, in the heartland of the continent, the highly contested city of Chicago. That goshawk king who intended to fight for world dominance was waiting for me to attend this deadly trap. The true apocalyptic struggle was only just beginning right now.